Fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction. He's going with the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God.
Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Section's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go.
Oh no.
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
Yeah, so we're using the VRS Direct Force Pro this year. We have a wheel adapter right here, so I'm using the rim I used last year. But the motor right here produces a lot of power, a lot of precision, and it helps me, just feel the car more, feel the car a lot quicker. Especially, this week we're at Sonoma. I can feel it, when it hits the curbs. Any little change in the car, the wheel reacts a lot quicker than your typical gear-driven or belt-driven wheel. For example, if you're on oval and the rear tires break loose, force feedback on it corrects a lot quicker than your typical wheels. There's no resistance pretty much as far as being able to make quick corrections on the wheel. So all that, paired with how precise the wheel itself is, it makes it to where it helps you as a driver, to find that extra hundredth or thousandths of a second. So when you're getting a direct drive wheel, especially the VRS wheel, it's heavy duty. It's got good weight to it, it's not a plastic toy. It feels like you can really beat up on it. A lot of people have issues with their plastic gear-driven wheels just kind of breaking after a couple years. This thing just feels like it can go forever. The forces are really strong where if you might have to let go of the wheel if you get into the wall. You can adjust all that with the settings on it and stuff, but the wheel itself doesn't play around. It's got way more strength than you could ever need, and that's what makes it good, that you can adjust that down to whatever the car needs. So initially you'll be able to get the controller box and the motor together, and eventually you will be able to add a rim onto that option. They'll also be including a button plate on it to put on the rim to have all sorts of different buttons and functionality. Also, pedals are coming, so that's a pretty big deal as well. Hasn't been covered too much, but the goal is to also have pedals to go along with the Direct Force Pro. So that's pretty exciting. The wheel feels good. It feels very much like a real world steering wheel. You just kind of feel like what you would imagine the car to feel like. A real steering wheel in a car is very smooth, it's very direct, very quick, and that's what this wheel feels like.
Welcome to round number 2 of Scrap Stock Car Racing Asia Pacific, presented by Aussie Online Gaming and SimSpeed. Heads to Atlanta Motor Speedway for the second round of this new championship. And after week 1 last week at Charlotte, we are in for a very, very entertaining, interesting, and potentially spectacular race here tonight. My name is Jay Kennedy. Alongside me, as always for this series, Cameron Dance. Cam, last week was epic. This week is going to be sensational. The drivers are feeling a little uncomfortable with the way the car's behaving, which should make the racing quite interesting.
Yeah, we've heard reports all week that from some of the drivers, the car's a little bit on the loose side, so hopefully it's not going to cause too much carnage, and it'll certainly lean itself towards being more conservative in the tyre department. So it's really going to spice this race up, and really is going to be one of those races where if you don't have any tyres, you're going to be in a little bit of trouble later on, and especially with the weather conditions at the moment, it's really going to cause a little bit of drama in that department. But nevertheless, we'll see what happens. Yeah,
so the drivers have just completed qualifying. We'll go through the starting grid very, very soon, but we'll talk about the race format as per normal. It is an 80 lap race here at Atlanta, or 60 minutes, whichever comes first. As we saw last week, we did finish time certain. We finished the race 2 laps early, but fingers crossed tonight we don't have that issue. But there is a potential for time certainty at some point. Just depends on how many cautions we get. Essentially, if we get a lot of cautions, we will end up at that time certain finish. What it does mean though is if we do get a few cautions, the tyre strategy starts to become very, very important. If we stay green, we're in a one pit stop race, but the likelihood of us staying green the whole way through is very, very minimal. So then when you decide to pit and take fresh tyres is very, very crucial, considering you've only got 2 spare sets of tyres waiting for you in the pit lane.
Yeah, absolutely. You're really going to have to play the strategy game very, very conservatively, and you're really going to have to think about the long run pace rather than actually trying to move your way through the field. Obviously, if you're down the order a little bit, you want to try and get a few positions over everybody else, but you making sure you don't burn your tires up in the process is going to be very, very important to making sure you manage to hold that position at the end of the race.
So with that being discussed, we've heard from drivers as well that 20 odd laps is around about the time that your tires really drop off. So if we see 20 laps at the start, I think we'll after that we may see some drivers look at doing a 2-stop strategy anyway. But if someone does it and we have a big long green flag run in the middle, then we have a caution with say 15 to go, having a spare set of tires for that moment is going to be very, very key.
Yeah, absolutely not wrong there, and it's really going to depend on what the cautions do, like you said, as to what people may or may not do with tyre strategy. They might try and extend their runs a little bit more than they naturally would if we got a green flag pit stop, but if we see green flag pit stops, it might find that some drivers will use an undercut and might gain an advantage out of it, but that's just going to be the way that this race is going to play out. All sorts is going to happen. Nobody knows who's going to end up winning, but it's going to be a really, really cracker race.
It was an absolutely fantastic race last week, and this was the way that it finished. Braden Boulos, Matt Danson, P1, P2, Jason Martin in 3rd. And Jaden Russell, I think both you and I have been very, very impressed with Jaden Russell's pace. Not only last week, but in practice and qualifying tonight, he's got some really good pace. So he's going to be one to watch throughout this series. Dan Yeaman also great job in 5th. Bo Albert, unfortunately, due to World Championship Rallycross commitments, has stepped back from the series, so we won't see him out on track tonight. But Dan Stevens, Matty Jones, Nigel Patton and Michael Skurlock rounded out the top 10 last week. That is the championship order as well. 40 points for a race win, 35 points for 2nd, 34 for 3rd, and then 1 point drop from there down to the lowest spot that you finish. The good news was we didn't have anything really to review in race control after the race as well, which is a real positive. But the big thing, 2 talking points to come out of it, is the domination of Altus. We're not too surprised by that, considering Boulos and Danson absolutely fantastic. But Jaden Russell really surprised me, and I'm very, very sure he surprised you as well.
Yeah, he certainly did show that he's actually got some reasonable pace in these things last week, and is certainly going to be possibly a contender for the overall series through the rest of the season. And there's obviously a few others that could possibly throw their hat in the ring, the likes of Matty Jones and that, all getting up and amongst it. We saw the regulars of the likes of Dan Stevens, Brendan Boulos, Jason Martin, and all those guys sort of up there in the front, but there's certainly a few outliers that stopped the show a little bit.
100%. There was quite a few that surprised us in relation to their pace. 1 minute away from getting underway. They've just had drivers briefing. Only extra notes that drivers were given tonight from last week was just to make sure that if they are on old tyres and the guys behind are on newer tyres, make sure they stay low rather than going high, because there was almost some penalties that were given out by iRacing for Braden Boulos and a couple of others at that first restart. So just see there, one of the talking points we'll get to later on is how slick the track is and how much tyre wear there is. But we'll go through the starting grid right now, because again, no surprise to see the front row being Danson and Boulos, but Matty Jones, Jaden Russell, as you just said, both done a brilliant job last week and again in qualifying tonight.
Yeah, they've put themselves on row 2, which is very, very impressive with this sort of field that they're currently competing in. And then you've obviously got Darren McKenzie and Caleb Hydes also getting amongst it. Hyde's not really having a strong result last week, but certainly coming out a little bit stronger this week.
A little bit of a surprise to see Jason Martin back in 7th position, Daniel Yeaman in 8th. Justin Howe will start 9th, Mizomo in 10th, that's good qualifying from him. Brady Baldwin in 11th, and Dan Stevens will start from position number 12. Brad Allison, Colin Bruns, Tim Cornt, Ryan Jones, and Peter Wilkinson were the only drivers to put in lap times. And then the rest of the starting grid will be as follows. It's not coming up on screen, unfortunately. It'll be Ashley Lear, Michael Schroeder, Brad Wingard, Jackson Barry, Mike Taliantich, Sam Stride, and Michael Shaw. Our field for this race, a 24 car grid for tonight. A very, very positive turnout indeed.
Yeah, very, very nice turnout and very consistent as well after last week where possibly some people had a little bit of a sour taste in their mouth, but nevertheless it's going to hopefully be another good night of racing. And on the Zoom wall as well, we've got our series regulars by the looks of it. We've got Dan Stevens in at the top left, Peter Wilkinson in the top right, and then Simon Mizomo and Daniel Yeaman in the bottom side. So it's certainly going to be interesting to see what's going to happen, and hopefully we catch some reactions, but nevertheless, they're going to be hopefully trying to have a very, very good night.
100%. They'll all be hoping for a very, very positive event tonight, and we are just starting to pull away. Oh no, I may have made a boo-boo in this setting up of the race too. We may have an issue. Fingers crossed it's okay. But I'm getting told I've given too many fast repairs, so that's why I don't normally do this sort of thing. That's why I'm much better on this side of the camera.
Yeah, you're not wrong there, but oh well, it's at least going to keep a lot of cars in the race. I think that's probably the positive to keep in mind, is that it's at least going to give everybody a little bit of a chance that if they get caught up in a wreck, they're going to be able to get back into the race. So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
The other positive too is it's better than giving them none. I'll have to work on my server setup building for next week. But here we go to get the green flag. Danson on the inside, Braden Bullis on the outside. We get ready to start here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Green flag flies, and a very, very good launch. Remembering that the drivers have to wait for the green flag. They've all got away very, very clean.
Yeah, very, very equal start between the two Altus pairings, and Danson going to take the lead straight away. Very, very good start from Jane Russell as well to move into 3rd place. Not a great start from Matty Jones, who's already started to fall into the back of the top 10 at Zoma, McKenzie and co. all starting to really shuffle up right in the back.
The little battles going on already, but a clean first lap is a great start to see. But you're right, 3 wide already. Mizomo and Howe, and Mizomo been absolutely launched. No caution, surprisingly.
Yeah, not quite sure how that's not a caution considering what ended up happening, and that was in no way really an ideal situation, especially for Mizomo, who just got absolutely launched into the air after that contact, and a few unfortunate souls being involved in that, the likes of Daniel Stevens, Bradley Wingard also involved in that, so not the greatest start to the race for them, but at the front of the field it's a very, very clean start.
Very clean indeed at the front. As you can see also Tim Cornt, Mike Taliantich side by side. You can see Josh Mickelmore out there tonight as well in the number 1 truck at the back there. 31 on the door, but he is running the number 1. He's got a fair bit of damage to his truck as well, unfortunately. Justin Howe and Brady Baldwin side by side. Justin will probably be feeling a little bit sheepish after that incident just there.
Yeah, he certainly will. Doesn't look like there's any damage. Oh, very, very loose on the way into turn 1, and that's caused him to end up in the high side. Keeps it out of the wall, luckily, but Brady Baldwin's going to take that position straight off at him, and he's lost quite a bit of time as a result. So very, very lucky to keep it out of the wall, but further forward, Matty Jones currently having to deal with Darren McKenzie on his outside at the moment. and continuing to persist with the bottom side of the racetrack is Matty Jones. He might start to find that he'll start to burn that right front up if he's not careful, but Mackenzie's going to continue to hold the outside line on the way out of turn 2 and on the way down the back straight, drawing equal on the way down the back straight and into turn 3. And they're still going to be equal, but that high side starting to work a little bit better for Mackenzie on the way through 3 and 4.
Yeah, the mid to outside line definitely is one of the preferred lines after you get the groove in a little bit. The car doesn't, or the truck doesn't like going too shallow, especially through 3 and 4. It can go a little bit lower through 1 and 2, but through 3 and 4 you'll find that the guys are a little bit higher up on the track surface. Braden Bullis starting to pull a little bit of a gap on Matt Danton. But Jaden Russell doing a very, very good job to stick with them at the front there. Those front 3 definitely in their own little world. But this pack that's developing between Mackenzie and Jones, with that Caleb Hyde's not too far ahead, they're very, very strong right now.
Yeah, it certainly is looking very, very strong. And you got Yemen and Martin not too far behind as well. They should be within draft range as well, so they'll start to slowly close in on that little clearing there of Mackenzie and Jones, and still side by side as well are those two currently at the moment. And Mackenzie just pressing on and managing to make that high line work in the end.
Took him a little while, but he got there. Probably took a few more laps longer than he would have liked. Justin Howe and Brady Baldwin still going at it too. I'll tell you what, Justin Howe is absolutely out of control at the moment. He's struggling with rear grip.
Yeah, he's certainly struggling to keep that rear end in check at this very moment in time. He's really getting loose on the way into the corner and struggling to keep that rear pointing in the right direction. I'm surprised he's managed to actually hold on to it with the way that he's been driving, but running that high line probably helping a little bit with trying to keep that right rear in check, but he certainly is struggling compared to everybody else around him, and he might start to lose a little bit of time if he's not careful too. Ryan Jones is not too far behind, and Jones getting very, very loose on the exit of 2 there.
That was very close there for Ryan Jones, and just up ahead, I was going to talk about that battle there, but Darren McKenzie's just broken ahead of Caleb Hyde, so Hyde's really good start. May have been too much too early, because he's starting to struggle with his truck. Dropping back through the field, he's also brought Matty Jones and, no surprise, Jason Martin up to him. Jason Martin, fastest truck on track at the moment.
He's got some very, very good pace, does Jason Martin at the moment. He was just pretty, well, not quite a tenth, but half a tenth quicker than everybody else in the top 3, and the likes of Mackenzie and Matty Jones were also quicker than the top, well, pretty much on pace with the top 3 as well. So possibly might see this little group of drivers start to catch those top 3 who are all just single file at the moment, possibly conserving tyres, possibly conserving fuel as well.
Yeah, fuel-wise, looking around about 45, 47 laps for fuel. But tyre wear in that is probably more the key. So making sure that you've got your tyres holding on to these really long runs, very, very crucial. I must say too, Justin Howe's got back past Brady Baldwin, so he's got good pace in his truck. He just can't keep it under control.
He seems to have got a handle on that truck and managed to get that rear back in check, so he's going to continue on the bottom side of the racetrack on the way through turns 1 and 2. Baldwin going to try hold the high side, and Jones going to be right in there as well, getting a nice bit of draft off these two. And into the warp, Baldwin just scraping it out of turn 2, and that's going to allow Jones on through on the bottom side, who gets very, very low, nearly on the white line as well. And Howell getting very, very low as well. He's going to shuffle up in front of Jones, and now Baldwin's going to try and go around the outside of both of them.
This is a very, very cool little battle pack. And you saw the speed advantage that Ryan Jones had into turn 3 there. He just had to back out of it. Almost had to get on the brakes. So very, very lucky to not end up with a little bit of contact there. And Colin Brunn's not too far away as well. It's a really cool little battle pack as Jason Martin just gets through on Matty Jones up ahead. Ryan Jones, very, very experienced driving ovals, but he's a little bit cautious around Justin Howe, just from watching how much sliding has been going on there for Mr. Howe.
I I don't blame him. When you see someone in front of you sliding as much as Justin was, you probably are going to be on the more cautious side. Is that Jones running a little bit lower while Howard running right up to the outside wall. And what that's allowed is Bruns to catch up to the back of Jones if he's compromised the exit out of turns 1 and 2, and possibly getting a little bit loose as well through 3 and 4 is Jones. Now Bruns is going to get through on the bottom side of the racetrack and take that position straight off Ryan.
This is about the point from here over the next 5 laps. We're going to see a huge drop off of tyre life. So holding on and conserving tyres from here till that lap 40, 42, 43 mark is going to be very, very crucial. And that's where the likes of Boulos, Danson and Jason Martin really come into their own. Experienced oval drivers know how to conserve the tyres, know how to not scrub the front tyres, which is something that I know I used to do quite a lot. It's very, very easy to scrub your front tyres at this circuit.
Yeah, very, very easy to use your tyres and use them up a little bit too early, especially at this track. It doesn't matter what car you're in, you're going to be very, very cautious and trying to look after your tyres as best as you can instead of booting them up. As it's getting very, very loose is Daniel Stevens just getting away as well, being a lap down. No hassle there for these drivers currently batting for 4th position, but looking very, very comfortable as Jason Martin up on that high side at the moment. Doesn't look like he's really wrangling the car at all, and he's going to get a run on Caleb Hydes as a result of using that high line and getting that momentum on the way into turn 3. He goes to the low side, but Hyde's going to try hang it around at the outside on the way through 3 and 4, and he might just be able to do it and have the advantage on the way into 1 and 2.
Nice move. Or I must say Caleb Hydes is doing a good job to try and hold it, but Jason Martin, very, very smart. Took his time getting that move done. Interesting, the pace drop off at this stage as well. They are already driving at around about 1.3 seconds slower than their fastest lap. So very, very big drop off of pace. What that will do is Caleb Hyde's very, very close to losing it. What that will mean is the drivers that do opt to pit earliest and take that fresh set of tyres are going to have some incredible pace for those few laps that they've got that advantage. Of course, the downfall is their tyres are going to be struggling a lot of others, so they'll lose that advantage back again. Really interesting strategies that come out tyre conservation-wise in these races.
Yeah, you're 100% right there, and you're really trying to make sure you can go as long as you possibly can. And if you get an undercut, you're kind of hoping for a safety car at the right time so that you can get back into the lane and put a new set of tyres on and use that pace that you've got with those newer tyres to get on by everybody once again, as it's still going on for Mizomo, who's trying to recover from that earlier SpaceX Expo on the way.
He's been watching a lot of SpaceX launches. I think that might have been why.
He has been watching a lot of rocket launches, so certainly taking some very, very good pointers there to send himself to space. But nevertheless, he's making his way on through the field, and with new tyres as well that he'll have, he'll be making it very, very easy work of that.
Here is Peter Wilkinson continuing on in his little battle right now. I'm just having a couple of weird technical issues at the moment, so I'm just trying to fix that at the moment. Cam, sorry.
Yeah, no worries. He's not too far off the back of Michael Short at the moment, and Mitchell not too far up the road as well from these guys. Mitchell not really having a great night at the moment, but nevertheless still going along and getting some nice points on the board with the way that things are going. But certainly Wilkinson trying to catch up to the back of Shaw, and slightly slower last time by compared to Shaw, but a little bit more pace on that previous lap. So is it slowly catching him? But at the front of the field, the two Altus drivers of Braden Bullis and Matt Danson have swapped position. So
no,
Bullis, and that is Ryan Jones in very big trouble.
The blown engine, and that's a lot of damage. So what has happened to him? We need a replay to work that out and dissect it, because that is huge.
Yeah, certainly a lot of damage on that truck there, coming through 1 and 2, and we just got a little bit loose, I would say. Yep, he got very, very loose, and finds that the inside safer barrier straight into the side of it. Luckily, hit it side on rather than head on, so that motor's at least still going, but he's going to be on a very, very alternate strategy compared to everybody else as a result of that damage and using that fast repair.
Could almost be a blessing in disguise in some ways, because it means that he does have to do something different. He'll use his spare car, get back out there, fresh truck, go again. He is a lap down, but the advantage he's got is Dan Yeaman just hits the wall. The advantage he's got is that he'll have some really good pace right now, and sure, he's going to be one set of tyres short as Yeaman trying to get back down to the bottom, struggling to do so. He does get it down to the pits, but that was very, very scary for Yeaman there. As I was about to say, is that Jones now has a huge advantage in some aspects, because he's doing something different to everyone around him. If he had continued on and done the same as everyone else, he's probably not going to gain too many spots, but this could be very, very advantageous for him in making his way forward.
Yeah, it certainly could end up being an advantage for him. It could also be an advantage for Yeaman as well, who's recently just pitted with that damage. And just looking at that previous shot of Danson, he was just slightly sliding that rear end, so I'd say those rear tyres on everybody's car are starting to become a little bit of a problem. That's possibly why we're starting to see a few drivers be claimed by the walls, so no surprise there that some drivers are suffering with rear tyre degradation a little bit more than others. But you just see the smooth wheel work, the minimal amount of wheel work as well from Matt Danson on the way through 1 and 2, just trying to keep those tyres in check, trying not to overdrive them and overheat them. It's a little bit of opposite lock on the way through 1 and 2, and that's going to give Schroeder a little bit of a run on the way into 3 and 4, and Danson going to stay high and just let him on by.
Probably a little bit more than a little bit there, wasn't it? There's a fair bit of sideways action going on there, so he'll be happy that he actually got through that. The tyres definitely starting to have a little bit of an impact, as here comes Jason Martin. I'm also seeing Brady Baldwin slow. He's hit the wall as well. Interesting that these guys that are hitting the wall at the moment are all hitting them in spots where they're not bringing out cautions, and Baldwin's got off the circuit, which means that we're not going to have another caution.
Yeah, he's luckily put it in a position where it's not going to end up throwing a yellow, luckily, so we continue to go at green for the continuation of this race. And Bruns still trying to hold off Taliancic at the moment, and Court not too far behind as well. So this little 3-car pack all fighting for the final spot inside the top 10 at the moment. And Bruns has actually fallen off the back of likes of Hownet quite a lot. So trying some different strategies is Brun to try and conserve those tyres a little bit, and it seems to be working not too bad.
Yeah, definitely isn't being too bad for him. And Bruns is definitely a driver that also is very, very good at that conservation. I must say, Taliancic, for a driver that has hardly ever done an oval race in his life, is doing quite well out there at the moment. So props to Mike Taliancic out there in the 77. We normally see him in the 777, but that number was already taken. So he's running the 77 for this series as Brady Baldwin's get back out on track after getting a fresh engine installed in his truck.
To see Brady back on out there, but he's going to be at least a lap or two down, unfortunately, so he's got a little bit of work to do to get back towards the middle of the field, and he's going to at least get a 1 lap back if we get a caution. But McKenzie currently hounding at the back of Jason Martin, who got a little bit loose out of turn 2 there, nearly found himself in the wall, but managing to run that high side very, very nicely is McKenzie, and making it work very, very well as Lear's in the pit lane for a set of tyres, and is going to take 4 tyres in that stop, and so is Stride as well.
Interesting, we've got our first pit stops happening after lap 32. Those guys are hoping for a fairly clean race from here on in. Make that strategy work. Of course, there is the potential for green-white checkers in this series if we do get to that point. Fingers crossed we don't need them, but you never ever know in this series.
Yeah, absolutely don't know. We saw quite a few cautions last week at Charlotte, and we nearly ended up with a green-white checker if it weren't for time certain, but it was looking like it might just be a green-white checker. But again, you never know, and that's another thing that you have to take into account with strategy as well. You want to make sure that when you do pit, you put enough fuel in for that green-white checker, because the last thing you're going to want to be doing is putting it or having to come down onto the lane when the green-white checker is currently in progress.
Exactly right. And put you way at the back of the field, you lose all your track position, which is very, very crucial. As more green flag stops, 0-3 of Brad Allison in, and Bulos and Danson continue on. Interesting their lap times in comparison to Ryan Jones. Of course, Ryan Jones has pitted. Last lap for Jones, a 31.9. Danson and Bulos, 33.2s. So definitely a huge advantage on those fresh tyres, but you don't get that advantage for very long, so you really have to make the most of it while you can. Ryan Jones is closing up on Dan Yeaman as well, so they're getting rather close. Lear and Stride, obviously the fastest trucks out on track at the moment, as Darren McKenzie from 5th position brings his truck into the lane to get some tyres. Tim Corn also coming in. So drivers have decided now is the point that these Goodyears haven't got much left in them.
Yeah, they certainly won't have much life left in them on anybody's truck at this point, with how many laps everybody has been doing, especially in the temps that the track is. The track is starting to drop a little bit. It's dropped about 4 degrees or so, 3 degrees in the space of 35 laps, and especially with this cloud cover coming over the circuit as well. So it'll be helping with a little bit of extra grip and a little bit of extra tyre life as well, but it won't be too much as Howe comes down onto the lane to do his pit stop.
Yep, so Justin Howe from, I think he was in 7th or 8th position. Of course, he was battling very, very hard with Brady Baldwin earlier, but of course, that ended when Brady unfortunately hit the wall at the exit of turn 4, so Howe stops in his box. Ashley Lear is around about 3.5 seconds back from Ryan Jones. You can see Lear there in the Torque Inc. car. Of course, teammate Mitch McLeod not here tonight. He'll be racing the rest of the season. Got a few drivers that will be coming in for the rest of the season. A few drivers that will be dropping out and appearing for guest appearances throughout the season. So there'll be a whole heap of different names that we'll get throughout the championship, which I'm actually looking forward to. Good to see a mix of different drivers throughout the series.
Yeah, it certainly will be very, very interesting to see who's going to end up turning up and who the guest drivers are and what they might do in terms of results, and might just spoil the party for some of these quicker drivers, hopefully. But nevertheless, we'll have to wait and see who's going to turn up when and who might spoil that party. But Ryan Jones currently not doing too bad for himself on some new fresh tyres. The top two in the field at the moment, Danson and Buglos, still going on that first set of tyres after 38 laps, and about to start lap 39, so they won't be too far away from coming down onto the lane. Russell as well, one of those drivers is going to need to come down onto the lane at some point, but making those tyres last very, very well at the moment, despite getting a little bit sideways.
Jaden Russell's stuck with them too. He's done a really good job. He's maintaining that gap back to Jason Martin as well. So if Jaden Russell can get a really good pit stop here, he will have a big jump up the field in regards to track position. He'll probably pass the likes of McKenzie, who has obviously already pitted. Just seeing Ryan Jones coming back into the pits. Now, oh no, he spun. We're hearing that yellow flags are disabled for some reason, which they shouldn't be. So I'm a little bit frustrated about that right now.
Blame Jay. Blame Jay.
Blame me. Yeah, I mean, I did set up the server, so it is my fault, but I definitely did check it a couple of times, so I'm a little disappointed as to why that has happened.
I guess the bonus is that we're going to get green flag stops regardless, and end up with a little bit more racing, although the caution has just been thrown as a result of an incident. But
Yep.
nevertheless, it'll be interesting to see how this is going to play the strategy out as a result.
Yep, that's for the incident for Ryan Jones there. Because that definitely should have been a caution. He was on the track. And manual caution has been thrown because of it. The automatic cautions aren't working for some reason, but the manual ones are. That will change the race a little bit though, because we're at that 40 lap limit that we thought we were going to get to.
You know, certainly are, and it's gonna be a little bit spicy because of the fact that you've got a number of drivers who have already pitted and are currently a lap down, so they're all going to get their laps down when the leaders end up pitting under this caution, and be interesting to see how the lucky dog is going to end up helping some drivers as well.
Darren McKenzie will get the lucky dog. He's the first driver 1 lap down. Boulos, Danson, Russell, Martin, Hides, Jones of the Maddie variety. Haliancic and Wilkinson, the only drivers yet to pit. We'll see all of those guys come in and get their first set of tyres. Those guys that have already pitted, Mackenzie, Yeaman, Lear, Stride, Howe, Bruns, Horn, Schroeder, Allison Shaw, etc. They will all end up back on the lead lap as well.
Yeah, so they'll at least get some form of advantage, and they'll at least get a wave around at the end of the safety car period. Last driver who's going to get a wave around is Brad Allison. So everybody else is going to be on the lead lap and is still on the lane. And looks like not really much has changed in the order of that top 5, top 6 actually. So not really much of a change in that department, and a few drivers still on the lane as well, trying to get some possible damage fixed as well.
So Boulos maintains the lead, but all of the drivers ahead of him at the moment will get waved around. So that is right up to, that is the 0-3 ahead of Brad Allison. So Michael Shaw will also get waved around, Brady Baldwin, Ryan Jones. They'll get 1 lap back, but actually no, Ryan Jones has been told to get back behind the safety car. Behind Colin Bruns anyway. A few drivers have decided to come in for a second stop. Schroeder is in. Brady Baldwin has come back in. Michael Shaw has also come back in.
Yeah, so if you decide to come down onto the lane again, possibly to get some tyres and maybe some extra damage fixed if they have any at this stage. Not necessarily a bad thing to come down onto the lane after a wave around, well, after Lucky Dog, or try and possibly alternate your strategy as well.
We will get the 1 to go signal next time by. The drivers in between the leader and the pace car will get waved back to the front of the field. Aaron McKenzie leading that group of drivers. The likes of Mazzomo and Stevens will get a chance to get some of that time back that they lost. It's a positive. These guys are probably deserved a bit better race than what they've had.
Yeah, you're 100% right, and they'll at least be able to get back onto the lead lap and get back in the fight of the race as well, rather than being stuck 1 lap down and waiting for those top guys to pit and end up with a possible very, very large tyre advantage as well. Very, very hard to tell how far into the race that top 6 would have gone to get an overcut, but
they couldn't have gone much more.
No, they probably couldn't have, but it would have been fascinating to see who stayed out and possibly risked losing a tyre as well and possibly putting it in the fence. But nevertheless, it's is what it is now, and it's at least balanced the field out a little bit better.
So we go back green flag racing this time. Boulos, Danson, Russell, Martin, Hides, and Matty Jones, your top 6. Still got one truck that's coming towards the front of the field. Or who that is that's just driven past all of those guys. That'd be Michael Schroeder. The likes of Yeeman and Lear, McKenzie are all trying to catch up to the back of the pack as we get going again. Remembering that the drivers cannot go until the green flag flies, which is right now. And a very, very good launch from everybody at the front. But Matt Danson on that outside row may have a slight advantage.
He might have a slight advantage, although that advantage has suddenly turned into Boulos in the fact that he's got the inside line for the run into turn 1, although they're going to drop alongside on the way through 3 and 4. And Boulos going to continue to run that bottom side of the racetrack and going to have his nose ever so slightly in front of his teammate of Matt Danson. But Danson's just going to end up nosing him at the line. 0.003 of a second it was between the two of them. So Danson might just be able to take the lead at some point with the way it's going.
Hitting around about 300 kilometers an hour down the back straight. Around about 280, 275 through the corners. Some incredible speeds here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, which of course is now going to be upgraded for next year's NASCAR series with extra banking at this circuit, which will be absolutely wild. It's already very heavily banked and has some amazing characters, so more banking here will be incredible. Braden Boulos, Matt Danson, they're quite content and happy sitting side by side, which I don't think Jaden Russell, Jason Martin, Caleb Hides and Matty Jones will be too upset about watching them do.
Yeah, they certainly weren't too upset, and they'll also possibly know that Boulos is going to end up with tyre issues on that right front at some point in this run as a result of burning it up so quickly. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what's going to happen between these two teammates and what the tyre wear situation may or may not do, as it may allow Russell to get on to the second step of the podium. But Boulos is certainly not giving up on this one and certainly continuing to pressure his teammate into making him work for it.
Definitely a lot of pressure, and I'll tell you what, Jaden Russell's there to take advantage if he can, and I think Matt Danson's realised that. He's going to try and take the inside now through a beautiful switchback move. Jaden Russell, I wouldn't be surprised to see him follow Matt Danson through and try and hold that inside line and force Boulos to use the outside a little bit more, work extra hard to try and hold on to those tyres.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a surprise at all, but being now on the top side of the racetrack, he might have just done the switch between the two of them, with the fact that Boulos might have been starting to struggle with that right front, so the switch to try and equal out their tyres and try and create a little bit of a roadblock for Russell, who's pretty much got nowhere to go. He's trying to follow Matt Danson through, but doesn't quite have enough of a run. He might have a look here, but just decides to look to the inside instead of sliding in behind him. They're going to be nearly 3 wide on the way into turn 3 and 4. They're going to be 3 wide on the way out of turn 4 as well. Russell's going to be on the bottom. He's going to try and make it work. Boulos and Danson running the middle and the outside. 3 wide across the stripe. Still 3 wide on the way into turn 1. And Russell might just be able to get something out of this, but those two on the high side continuing to make it work very, very nicely.
He almost forced Jaden Russell to scrub the tyres a little bit too hard there, and Russell, good idea from him to back out of it. The 3 wide sometimes provides a bigger advantage to the driver on the outside because they don't have to work those inside tyres as hard, but Braden Boulos has now maintained the lead. But I'll tell you who would have loved seeing that 3 wide is that purple and black car just behind. Jason Martin will be loving watching these guys at the front apply pressure to each other and fight very, very hard.
Yeah, you're not wrong there. He'll certainly be looking back and just licking his lips and rubbing his hands together, knowing that these guys are all fighting so hard and possibly burning their tyres up a little bit quicker than he would be in clean air on his own as well, not having to deal with any sort of traffic. So he'll be very, very happy with what's happening in front of him. And it might cause caution should those top three come together, and he'll be in the prime spot to just take those positions away from them.
We're almost into the final quarter of the race. We're into the final third. We're nearly into the final quarter. It is getting very, very intense. Remember, some drivers only have, or actually everyone, has only got one set of tyres left. And some of those drivers will have to come in with about 10 laps to go potentially to get some fresh boots. What will that mean for them? Will they be hoping for another caution to potentially get a wave around and get themselves back on the lead lap? There's some very, very big intrigue happening right now. This battle at the front, very intense. And I must say, Jason Martin has not been able to shake those drop bear trucks just behind him. Matty Jones, Caleb Hydes are sticking with him. Darren McKenzie, Mike Taliancic also doing well. Remember, Taliancic is on fresh tyres as well. So some really interesting battle packs at the moment. But Jaden Russell is impressing me a huge amount right now.
Yeah, he's certainly showing he can mix it with the big boys at the moment. Really, really putting the Altus pairing under pressure massively at the moment. He's going to drive it around the outside of Matt Danson as well on the exit of two to get that move done, and he might just be able to get it up the inside of a Boulos as well as they head through 3 and 4. He might just make this work, but doesn't look like it's quite going to work in his favor in the end. Boulos going to hold on to that position for the time being.
I think Boulos will be a little bit concerned though, because he now sees that there's another contender that is a legitimate contender, that being Jaden Russell. But Taliancic gets through past Darren McKenzie, so that is move done. Ashley and Justin Howe also getting close together. But Jaden Russell, he is doing a phenomenal job right now, and Braden Boulos is doing just enough to hold on. He's not doing anything extra than he has to. He's doing the perfect amount to hold on to the spot. Jaden Russell, though, is looking, trying, waiting, watching, ready to pounce for the slightest little mistake.
Yeah, he certainly is waiting for that very, very slight mistake. That's going to give him the race lead. It's a little bit of a wiggle on the exit of 2 there from Russell, and a little bit of a wiggle as well from Boulos out of turn 2. And Jason Martin is now right on the back bumper of Matt Danson. So Danson might possibly lose a podium finish here if he's not too careful.
You remember, Boulos and Danson and Martin was the podium for round 1, so these were actually the top 5 from round 1. Sorry, the top 4 from round 1. Daniel Yeaman was in position number 5. He's back a little bit tonight in 13th, but Jason Martin, great exit out of turn 2, and he is going to storm up to 3rd position because Danson will not be able to hold on to that low. He's doing a very, very good job of holding it. A lot of smoke up ahead. That's Michael Schroeder, who's blown an engine. Same incident we saw to Ryan Jones earlier. But what a little fight there. And I didn't think Danson had a chance of holding onto that position with the momentum advantage Jason Martin had through turn 2. How Danson held on to that, I will never know. I would love to learn though.
Yeah, very, very nice bit of smart going on there from Matt Danson to managing to make that one work in the end. Very, very experienced oval player, so he knows how these things work and what's going to be best. But Russell looking to the inside of Boulos on the way into turns 1 and 2 for the lead of the race. He's got a little bit of overlap, but Boulos is going to be on the outside line. He might just be able to have enough momentum, but Russell's got a very, very nice run on the exit of turn 2. He's going to continue to stay alongside and have overlap on the way into turn 3. And still going to draw alongside him, and Danson looking like he might be able to come back from this one here to get around the outside of Jaden Russell. Martin still sitting in behind there, as well as the 2 drop bear cars of Jones and Hydes as well, so you can't count any of these guys out.
I'm actually wondering if Jason Martin's content sitting there and watching these guys and just there to apply enough pressure to force them to use a little bit more tyre than they would like. 19 to go. These guys are really going to start to feel the tyre life dwindling. They're down around about 1.5 seconds from what their fastest laps were. But we know that the next 20 laps of tyre life is where the tyres get incredibly bad. So trying to hold on to this tyre set now is going to be very, very crucial.
Yeah, absolutely is. And you do have to wonder if Martin's possibly just sitting in behind, waiting for the moment to use the tyres, as he's just been sitting behind, casually waiting and just being patient, not overdriving the car, not pushing too hard to battle with these guys, whereas those top three have really been fighting quite hard over the past 10 or so laps. So could be a very, very possible win on the cards here for Jason Martin if he can play a little bit better than he is at the moment. But currently, he does have to worry a little bit about Matty Jones being in his mirror.
Jaden Russell still doing a great job, but I think now he's starting to feel that pressure coming from behind. He didn't have enough in the tyre or in the pace to actually get that finished on Danson and Bullos as much as he tried. And you can just see he's starting to crack a little bit. He's running some slightly different lines, and Matty Jones also doing a very, very good job. But Jaden Russell doesn't look like he's quite got enough left to potentially hold on. Fingers crossed for his sake he can, and for the race's sake he can. But he's starting to struggle a little bit, and I've also noticed Matty Jones starting to use a very, very open sweeping line. I think Jason Martin may have just realised that as well, because now is the chance for him to try and pounce. He's going to take this third position away, you would feel.
He certainly looks like he's on the move and trying to get the move done on Jaden Russell. Here is Matty Jones, nearly took it 3 wide through the tri-oval, but didn't quite get there in the end. It's very, very close between these three currently, and Caleb Pice is looming in the background as well. What this has done is also allowed that 2 Altus pairing to start to form a little bit of a breakaway from the rest of that top 6 from those guys. And now Bullos going to try get around the outside, well, hold it around the outside of Danson. Danson's trying to make that bottom side work, but just can't quite make it happen.
He's not quite able to do it, is he? He's just needs that extra 1% to get it done. But these guys need to be careful. If they start fighting too much, that brings Martin and the rest of that group back up to them. There's still other battles going on out on the track as well. We haven't forgotten about everyone else out there, but when you've got the top 6 battling in such an intense battle as Caleb Heidster and Matty Jones, you can't take your eyes off it, because it's incredible racing that we're seeing at the moment.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's just intense battling going on at the front of the field, whether it's first, second, third, fourth, or fifth and sixth. It's really, really going off at the moment, and they've all broken up into little 2-car packs as well at the moment. You got obviously the 2 Altus drivers, and you've got Jason Martin and Jaden Russell, and then obviously the 2 dogbear cars of of Hides and Jones, who have swapped positions as well. But further back, it's also going on between Corn, Bruns, Yeaman, and Wilkinson, who are all trying to recover after a little bit of kerfuffle earlier in the race, but they're not doing too bad. And Howell's also pressuring the back of Lear as well.
There's lots of little mini battles. I just saw the tech issues I was talking about before. I was trying to get the Zoom feeds to work, but I can't get them to pop up in the broadcast for some reason. I just noticed Dan Yeaman absolutely yanking the wheel, almost looped around. Also seeing Simon Mazoma have trouble getting through the corners as well, but Peter Wilkinson, you just saw it in the background there, he's having a nice casual drive at the moment, so he's nice and cruisy. Colin Bruns just got through there on Tim Corn, so Bruns up into position 13. And Dan Yeaman, I said he was struggling a little bit with tyres. Oh no! Oh no!
Oh, not ideal at all, and that'll be a speeding and pit lane penalty as well, Lee. So that's gone from bad to worse there, unfortunately.
You know what made it worse? We were actually watching. That's what the worst bit was.
Only we had the Zoom feed.
Only. Don't worry, you can see the look in his face. He's absolutely embarrassed. I think he's just looped it again. Oh, no, he missed his pit box. Yeah, he's not happy. The battle at the front, though, is still on a little bit of a push there from Matt Danson and Braden Bullis. 10 to go. It's getting very, very intense at the front.
Getting very, very intense, and Danson trying various different things at the moment to see if he can make something happen in these final few laps. Martin not really able to do anything at this stage compared to the top two, but those top two really running up against the outside wall at this stage as that Highline's really coming to its own at the moment. But Danson's trying everything he possibly can, throwing everything he can at his teammates to try and make something work so he can try and steal the victory off Boulos, but it's going to be very, very hard pressed with how quick these guys are and how equal they are as well.
Yeah, very, very equal is probably the big thing. I mean, look at their fastest lap and their best lap. They're almost identical, both. So definitely very, very consistent in regards to pace and ability as well. Two of the best that we have in this series. Actually say that the top three are three of the best that we've got in this series. Two of them being Danson and Martin, two of the best oval drivers we have in Australia. Of course, Braden Boulos joining us from the USA for this series as part of the Logitech G Altus Esports team. Ryan Jones has had to bring his truck back in the lane. I'll tell you what, Ryan has not had a great night.
Certainly hasn't had a great night, and that right-hand side is looking a little bit worse for wear again. So I'd say he's clattered the wall, probably on the exit of two. We've seen a few drivers, unfortunately, fall victim to that wall across the night, but nevertheless, he's back in the lane and getting that repaired and be back out there as quickly as he can. He's going to end up falling a lap down, unfortunately, due to the pace that the guys at the front are currently carrying, but still nose to tail at the moment. Jason Martin's come back a little bit from them as well, so starting to work his way forward and might be able to cause a little bit of a stir up.
Yeah. Some really good pace does Jason Martin right now. You see there, he gained about 0.4 of a second on this lap alone. So he's definitely got the pace. I think he might have decided, yeah, it's time to go. It's time to push these tyres. Time to wait those guys ahead. Work for it. 5 to go when we cross the line. And this is going to be very, very, very intense. Because remember, they're on 30-lap old tyres. 30-plus lap old tyres. The front two have had to work really hard because they've had a lot of pressure from behind. Jaden Russell's gone. I was about to say, look who's coming here, but that's Daniel Geeman, who is a lap down. Of course, we just saw his remarkable pit entry. Oh, and I'm just seeing too, we've got teammates into each other. Caleb Hydes, Jaden Russell.
Oh, no.
So Jaden Russell is involved. Caution is out.
Oh, this
he's
is
hit the wall. Jaden Russell has just hit the wall, and Caleb Hydes has had nowhere to go.
And we'll see on the VRS replay here, coming through turns 1 and 2, he gets loose and then overcorrects, I'm going to say. And indeed, I am correct, and unfortunately, Hyde's nowhere to go and straight heavily into the wall, both of them managing to somehow keep it going, but those kick trucks will be very, very damaged as a result. And what this has done is also helped the likes of Ryan Jones and Daniel Yeaman, who have gone a lap down in that.
What this has also done is put the drivers in a bit of predicament what they do in regards to tyre strategy. Daniel Yeaman will get the lucky dog and get back onto the lead lap. Not too long ago pitted, but everyone else will come in that is on the lead lap. You would expect Sam Stride looks like he's going to continue on purely for track position. For me, I don't think that's a good call, but you never know what can happen in these races. Taliancic and Howe also have continued on. We've got 3 that have stayed out.
Yeah, so they're all trying to get a lap back, some of these guys, but they're also trying to stay out there for track position with a green-white checker. It's not exactly a silly idea, but it's going to be very, very difficult for them to hold on. And with the way that these guys behind are going to have brand new tyres and are going to just blast on by in no time.
The damage to Jaden Russell's truck there as he limps it back into the pits. Go back to the front. Taliancic leads. Howe second. Stride third. Bruns in fourth. They have not come in for their last set of tyres. And you've got Braden Boulos, Matt Danson, Jason Martin, and Matty Jones, the top 8. Darren McKenzie and Peter Wilkinson round out the top 10. And seeing them, Mazomo coming in. Ryan Jones will have to drop back through the field. And for some reason, green white checkers are also not working.
Well, isn't that anticlimactic?
So that's really going to mess things up. Dan Newman.
Oh, no.
He was just getting way past the pace car because he's the lucky dog. But he's just looped it in his process of doing so. So there should be still 3 laps to go in this race, but for some reason we are not showing 3 laps to go. Why that is the case, we don't know, because there should be a green-white checker in progress.
There's some talk it could possibly be down to the fact it is an admin throwing caution, but I don't see why that might cause an issue.
Yeah, I haven't seen that happen before yet either. We will see what happens when we cross the line here, but it is showing the final lap, which it shouldn't be. So I'm a little frustrated because I set this server up, so that's why I'm sounding a little dejected at the moment. So we will probably have to have a big conversation post race around what we do in regards to results for this round, but hasn't quite gone to plan. Lucky this is a test season.
Yeah, absolutely right. Lucky this is a test season, so we can work these bugs and issues out throughout the season. Obviously, not too ideal to do it where points count, but nevertheless, it is what it is. And teething issues are going to happen.
I'm going to apologise publicly to all the drivers for my little mess up. It's had a big impact in the race, unfortunately, tonight. So we will get all these issues sorted for next week. But yeah, this isn't how we wanted the night 10. Mike Taliantich is going to cross the line technically as the winner. Justin Howe and Sam Stride in second and third. Colin Bruns in fourth. But they probably wouldn't have finished in that order if we had what we were supposed to have, which is green-white checker.
Yeah, it certainly would have been a little bit more of a shuffled order. Would have been more what we saw before the caution came out with those top 6 likes of Buller, Stanson, Martin, Jones, McKenzie, all being in the front of the field by the end of the race, and possibly might have seen an incident or two, but nevertheless, Taliantich is going to be the winner of the Atlanta race, and Howe and Stride are going to round out the podium.
Yeah, so congratulations for now for Mike Taliantich, but yeah, there'll be an asterisk beside that one for sure for tonight. But still, what a race we had in that mid-pack there, that mid-phase, I should say, that laps from around 30 to go. That was incredible, the battle between Buller, Stanson, Martin, and Jaden Russell. I really, really feel for Jaden Russell. He made a mistake that anyone that has raced at this track has made. Very, very easy to do on those old tyres, and he'll be heartbroken that that's happened.
Yeah, be absolutely gutted with himself that the race has unfolded as it has, and Cal Pides will be a little bit hurt as well with the fact that he was an innocent bystander in that all. But it is what it is, and at the end of the day, that the setup is what it is, and you have to just try and drive it out the best that you can. But unfortunately, a few drivers being caught out, which is never ideal, but it is just one of those things.
On that note, we look forward to next week when we iron out the bugs and maybe sack the guy that made the session up and get someone else to do it. We head to New Hampshire, and what a track in comparison to this one. Next week, although the distance in regards to lap numbers is the same in 80 laps, absolutely 2 polar opposite tracks.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. We go from a very, very high banked speedway to what is effectively a flat and short track as well. So speeds are going to be very, very low compared to the likes of Atlanta and Charlotte, and it's going to mean that passing is going to be very, very difficult compared to these 2 tracks as well. So certainly expect that there's possibly going to be a few cautions here and there and possibly a little bit of bump and rubber.
100%. You can catch that here with us at SimSpeed. We promise it will be a little bit smoother in regards to the caution side and lucky dogs and also the green-white checkers. But we thank you for watching and joining us for round number 2 of Scrap. We will end it there because I think the admin team of this series, including myself, need to go and have a little bit of a debrief, work out what we're doing in regards to race results for tonight. But we thank you very, very much for watching. Next broadcast for us at SimSpeed will be tomorrow night for Aussie car Skip Barbers. And of course, as we said, we'll be back next week for the next round of Scrap. Until then, we thank you very, very much for tuning in, and we will see you one next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my god!
Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?